Good morning, peace and blessings. It's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless, and I'm back with another video. Hope everybody enjoying their day. Yes, indeed, yes, indeed. And I'm gonna just get straight to the topic at hand. And as the title says, Venezuelans react to Maduro's arrest, and why are Americans telling them how to feel about it? You know, as you know, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, has been arrested, captured by the United States military, and brought to New York City to face multiple charges. He had a open warrant in the United States from 2020, so it's been about 6 years. He's been wanted. Trump actually made it happen. Now, I did a full breakdown. That was actually a pretty good breakdown, man. Y'all go check out my last video um, prior to this that I did a couple days ago, and just went through the whole spiel, gave a little brief breakdown of who Maduro was as a leader and everything. It was you know, about an hour long, so it goes into some detail on that. Now, since then, and I touched on in that video is that there has been a lot of mixed feelings about the capture and arrest of Maduro. Uh, you know, and I like to really just look at it from all spectrums. You got a lot of people that feel like Trump just being a bully, he going in there, it was unlawful. People out here protesting in America, talk about free Maduro, you know, uh, mostly American citizens. But the Venezuelans all over the planet, inside Venezuela and out, Venezuela, in they in the country of Venezuela and spread out across the planet, have been celebrating this nonstop. They've been saying that the majority have been saying that this guy Maduro was a dictator, um, the whole nine, right? And they're celebrating. It's like if you don't come from that country, I'm seeing protests with people arguing with people that are from Venezuela, that are Venezuelans, American citizens telling them they don't know what they're talking about just because they hate Donald Trump. And make no mistake, these Venezuelans, they don't really care for Donald Trump either. But the fact is, a lot of these Venezuelans have fled that country because they were starving, because the economy has been destroyed. They didn't have, a lot of them were being unalived. A lot of them were being disappeared if they disagreed with the dictator, allegedly. The, you know, since 2014, 8 million Venezuelans have fled Venezuela, went to different countries because of this dictatorship. A lot of them have been coming out, and I got a newfound respect because I'm learning a lot about Venezuela by hearing them speak on what has been going on. Like they really like been going through a lot with this guy. And when you look at the history, Maduro was set in place by his successor, Chavez. You know, that guy was the president first. So when Chavez left, when he passed, he implemented Maduro. And even going back to Chavez, that was to seem like the decline of Venezuela. Doing a little brief history, a little research on it. Everybody, man, talk about Trump just want the oil and this, that, and the third, right? But when you think about it, what the Venezuelans are saying is, we don't care about that. Him getting Maduro out the way is actually a good thing for us to start to rebuild. Because now, regardless of how you feel about Trump, this evil dictator dude is out the way. We can start to rebuild our country. A lot of Venezuelans are deciding to go back home. You know, I'm pretty sure they would rather be in their country. I mean, picture that. We take the United States for granted. We complain about a lot, but we don't come from the extremes of in this country where it's such a dictatorship. People marching up and down the street talk about no kings, but Maduro was really living like a king. They say he stole the election to stay in office. And if you speak up against this man, like people talk crazy about the president all day and don't nothing happen to him. They can't even say nothing about dude without fear for their life. So many people, tens of thousands of people have been unalive for going up against this man in disagreement, in protest, you know, disappeared in prison. I've seen videos of people in Venezuela, you know, military age man eating out of garbage cans. Like they saying this man wasn't even feeding his people. And it's crazy because Venezuela, prior to Chavez and Maduro coming into power, was one of the most, if not the most wealthiest nation in South America, in the Caribbean, because of the oil, right? And not only because of the oil, but going back to the 1920s, see, what I'm understanding is they have a certain type of oil, a crude oil, that is very thick, right? Like we got a lot of oil in the United States, but it's very thin. Their oil is very thick, and it takes a certain type of refinery to process it. We have the oil refineries designed to process that crude oil, right? Now, what I'm hearing from the Venezuelans themselves is that they don't care about Trump getting that oil because back in the 1920s, when the United States was in control of, you know, in trade with Venezuela, we spent billions of dollars, built up their economy to get that oil. We processed it. We benefited because we refined it and distributed it. And it was a winning partnership. And that's what built Venezuela's wealth, right? So when Trump was coming out talking about they stole our oil, you know, now what they're saying in Venezuela is that Iran, Russia, and China are invading the oil. So if they not, and they piss poor right now. So to them, it's like, we don't care if America get the oil. When at least when they was in control of it, we was eating off of it. We was prosperous. Now we got these other nations on the other side of the planet coming in extracting the resources and giving nothing to the people. When you go back to the 1920s, on all the way up to the 1970s, it was popping, right? United States and Venezuela, they had the crude oil, that thick oil, and we had the infrastructure to refine it, to reprocess it. So we both nations, United States and Venezuela, benefited greatly off of that relationship business wise. When Chavez got in the office, well, first they say, we had Arab nations in the 1970s. They started to try to punish the United States because we also got a lot of oil from the Middle East. But due to our relationship with Israel, they put all these, restrictions and sanctions on the United States, which increased the price of oil coming into the United States. And we linked on Venezuela for that crude oil because it got so expensive on the other side of the planet. And that really put Venezuela in a position to nationalize their oil businesses. So they not only trading with United States, now that opened them up to other nations. So I think that's what Trump is saying. Like, okay, we were the one that helped build your infrastructure. Now in the 70s, y'all start working with all these other nations and kind of pushed us out the way. So, I'm gonna do a deeper dive into this because, it has a lot to do with the Western Hemisphere, I'm learning, and the Monroe doctrines. It's a lot of history that we gotta unpack. Because I think what Trump and the administration is trying to do now, and I want to be clear on this. I'm trying to be non-biased in this situation. If Trump and them is bogus, they bogus. But from what I'm gathering, what he's trying to do is set up a situation where, okay, Europe in the Middle East is kind of janky right now as far as having trading partners. But if we control the Western Hemisphere, if we build up nations like Venezuela in Latin America, Colombia and Cuba, if we build them up and we got healthy trade relations with these nations that are right here on the Western Hemisphere, we ain't even got to deal with the rest of the country. I mean, the rest of the planet. We could just trade within. We don't need Europe. Europe, they getting in bed with all these other, nations. They getting basically invaded by the Middle East. So in essence, Europe ain't gonna be the same Europe that we used to trade with. We need to build up other trade partners right here in our backyard, build up powerful neighbors. That's why you're looking at Greenland. And I'm telling you, I see the play. And I think the Venezuelans coming out saying that this is a good thing for them. And the Americans coming up saying, well, you shouldn't be celebrating this. He's a dictator too. And this, hey, they like, man, we don't care. We see what you don't see. We see what we fled from. See, everybody want to talk crazy about the United States being a capitalistic society, but these people are running from a socialistic society to come to a capitalistic society. Socialism has always seemed to fail. In Venezuela, in Cuba, is terrible. And a lot of times, these people run to capitalistic societies for an opportunity to live. You know, and you got these these politicians on the left that want to push us in that direction. Let this be a shining example of how Venezuela fell from grace, embracing socialism and communism. Now, however you feel about the arrest of Maduro, he's gonna have his day in court, right? And what I'm hearing is he had every opportunity to work with the Trump administration to take this in a different direction. You know, now him and his wife in New York facing charges of narco drug trafficking. I think this got a lot because they say before he got arrested, he offered Trump to, hey, man, I'll do business with you, and I'll cut off Russia and China and Iran and all of them. Trump still told him, no, we're coming to get you. This is much deeper than some oil, right? Clearly, that's surface level thinking. Now, don't get me wrong, the oil is important from what I'm gathering. But this is about the Western Hemisphere. We're going to dive off into all of that, in more detail. But I see more of this happening, unfortunately. And unfortunately and fortunately, a lot of these nations right here on the Western Hemisphere are either gonna either have to conform to what Trump is talking about willingly, or a few of them unwillingly. I don't know if that's a good thing right now or a bad thing. I'm just putting it out there that I think that Marco Rubio, he's the Secretary of State for a reason. Marco Rubio is Cuban, so he knows how to navigate and speak the language of these nations in the Caribbean, right? So he knows what's going on. He's in the Trump administration as the Secretary of State, doing a tremendous job as far as being hands-on with these Latin American nations, because he's Latin American, right? So that was very strategic for Trump to put him in that position. Now, a lot of these nations are said to be corrupted. The people are in Venezuela and are celebrating, but the government is singing a different tune. Watch Colombia, watch Cuba. You know what I'm saying? Their reactions, the government's reactions from Colombia and Cuba are hostile right now. This is a trickle-down effect. And I'm just saying, Colombia and Cuba might be next. They might be next. And I think what Trump is trying to do, and this is just allegedly my opinion, is build up, beneficial trade partners in the Caribbean, where we don't even have to outsource outside of the Western Hemisphere for a stable economy. Right here, whatever the rest of the world is doing, if it go to hell, that's on them, because we built the infrastructure on the Western Hemisphere that's going to benefit everybody in the Americas. Notice China, Russia, Iran, they like, hey, y'all ain't finna have access to Venezuela if we can help it. We gonna control it. If you want to do business with Venezuela, we the superpower. You got to come through us. I think that's the move. If you want to come to Colombia, Cuba, you got to deal with the United States. We not only talking about the United States, we talking about the whole Western Hemisphere. We locking all that down. Now, what does that mean for the Venezuelans, the average everyday Venezuelans? Oh man, they bring in all these oil refinery companies into Venezuela, spent billions of dollars. That's going to trickle down to great paying jobs, the economy that you're going to be, people going to want to come in from other nations to be a part of it. You're going to bring in a lot of revenue. The stock going to go up. Hey, I'm moving back. If I'm a Venezuelan, I'm moving back to my home. These people don't want to be in these other countries if they can help it. So the legitimated gall to tell these people how to feel about this when you don't come from where they come from is quite ironic. It has to be very, like, you got a lot of nerve. I'm seeing these people, like, they are very like direct. They going to the protests telling them, you ain't from Venezuela, you can't speak for me. We might not rock with Trump like that, but this is good for us. You're trying to politicize what happened in our homeland just because you don't like Donald Trump. You don't care about us. You just trying to make a political statement. That's what they basically saying. And hey, you can't argue with that. How can you argue with the people that fled from that country due to the corruption, due to the threat, due to the hunger, when just, 3 decades ago, 4 decades ago, they were a prosperous nation. They know what happened in their homeland. I mean, especially if they 40 and up, they old enough to remember exactly what happened. They probably was, living very good, and then all of a sudden it turned from sugar to what. And then you got Americans sitting up there trying to tell these people. Now, I'm gonna say, when I was seeing all these illegal immigrants coming in the country, I'm like, man, I'm thinking like, now I always said it was never against the actual illegal immigrants. It was against the government that allowed that to happen, but also prioritized, the legal immigrants over the citizens. But now, if you build up their homeland, they ain't gotta be dispersed across the rest of the planet. The only reason they here is because of the corruption that happened in their country. Joe Biden, I got to give him his props. He knew that Maduro was a wicked dictator that over 62 countries don't even recognize as a legitimate president of their nation. People were being starved. People were being wrongfully persecuted and unalived. Think about that. 8 million Venezuelans left Venezuela due to what this guy was doing. You don't see that happening in America. They complain about Donald Trump, but you don't see 8 million people. You don't see 800 people running up out the country. You don't see 80 people really relocating out of America. They talk that talk, but you ain't seen real dictatorship in America. These Venezuelans, they seen it. They lived it. They got the numbers to prove it. We could do the research all day. But Americans don't have They are not in the moral or they don't have the experience that these people have to tell them how they should feel about what happened with Maduro. If anything, just be quiet and watch what happens. Me on the other end, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I already see where the administration is going with this, allegedly. And I don't necessarily, think it's a bad thing in the end. I think the end result, these Venezuelans, they see the end result. They gonna be back in their homeland, running up a bag, living their life like they was back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. But hey, man, just some thoughts for the mind right quick. It's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. We love y'all. Until next time, we should see you soon. Peace and blessings.